Hey there, audio enthusiasts. Ever heard of the Cousino Audio Announcer? This quirky little machine is a fascinating piece of audio history, a relic from a time before cassettes, 8-tracks, CDs, and before digital downloads. Imagine a world without instant communication, where background music in stores was often provided by live musicians or cumbersome record players. Enter the Cousino Audio Announcer, a brainchild of Elmer L. Cousino. He invented a simpler, more efficient way to play continuous audio loops, primarily for background music, announcements, and even advertising. Its applications were surprisingly diverse. One of its most famous applications was in the Zoltan arcade fortune teller machine. Stay with us as we take this unit apart and see how it works and the challenges to making it work again.
This is an endless loop tape cartridge. It was used in the Leadworks jukebox. It's kind of like a toy. This is a similar cartridge, but was used in a memo recording device. This is an endless loop cartridge, which was used in the Pocket Rocker Fisher-Price toy. And speaking of toys, we have the endless loop cartridge that was used with Teddy Ruxpin. Then we have the play tape. And then we have the same format, but used in an answering machine. This is the all too familiar 8-track tape, and this one was used in the 2XL toy robot. And the same format was used for audio, for music. This one here is the same format, except for you can see the notch right here indicating that it's a quad 8-track tape. Before the 8-track, there was the 4-track cartridge. And this particular cartridge could be used in the car to play back music on the go or in portables. And there is no pinch roller in this particular version. And there's only 2 programs as opposed to the 4 programs that an 8-track tape has. And not all artists had a screw right in the middle of their head, but apparently she did. And then for radio stations, they used an endless loop cartridge, and I think they just referred to these as carts. And this particular cart is a Scotch cart. And again, no pinch roller, but I believe this runs at 7.5 inches per second versus the 3 3/4 inches per second of 8-track and 4-track tapes. This particular one is also a 3 3/4. I believe it might be a 7.5. This has music on it. It has the soundtrack to a song, and the particular person has the ability to sing along with the music that is on this tape. A distant relative of the 4-track was this giant thing. This was used in a background music system. And just to give you an idea of the size, compare that to one of those carts. It's just like the corner of that. And so there was this size. I think this was the largest size. And then we had a size down, which is around this size. And I think this was sold with some kind of music player, may have been for churches, because this has a bunch of songs on it that are all played with bells. So there may have been a particular unit that could play this and play bells. And then a more modern version of these is this one, and this is from AEI Music Network Incorporated, and this is also a background music tape. I have the player that can play this, believe it or not. In fact, I have a player that can play every single one of these formats here. This one, this one, this one, this one. That one machine can play all of these. Now, unfortunately, the machine only has 1 speed, so I'd have to modify it to play the speeds of some of these other ones. But this particular one here plays without any modification in there. Now, all of these endless loop cartridges that I've shown you today have been made possible, or were made possible, by another format that you may not be aware of. You saw it at the beginning of this video. That format would be the endless loop cartridge of the Cousino Echomatic 2, made by the Orrtronics company, or it would have been this just Orrtronic tapette. So this was kind of used, like we said earlier, in the Zoltan fortune-telling machine. So it would just play the same speech over and over and over again. There was a park near us that I went to as a kid, and there was a animated Smokey Bear behind a glass that had a repeated message that would start when you hit a button outside. And that thing scared the living daylights out of me as a kid. I don't know why. I should have been fascinated with the tech at the time, but instead it scared me. So this was marketed to home users who wanted to play music in their homes. There are 2 tracks on it, so you have 2 programs, this one and this one. This one refers to it as track A and track B. And this is a much larger version of this. It's the same form factor, but it's a much smaller cassette, or this one is a much larger cassette. The machine that can play both of these is what we're going to look at today. And here it is, everyone, the Model 7331 Echomatic by the Cousino or the Orrtronics Corporation, depending upon the timeline that you happen to stop in on. But just to kind of give you an overview of this thing, there's your speaker built in on the inside there, your carrying handle. The area where the cartridge goes in is up here, and there's nothing on this side but just holes. So apparently someone who wanted to invent this thing had like an artillery or an ammo box, and they mated it with a tape player, and that is what you have here. This is the child of an ammo box and a tape player, all in one. Let's go over those controls. So our control panel and our jack panel are pretty much the same thing. We have an input here, and this is where you would connect a microphone or maybe connect an auxiliary source, such as a CD player, which is kind of what I used, or a handheld recorder of some sort. A microphone would also work, and then back in the day, of course, you could put a record player, or you could connect another tape player up to this and dub off a tape. We have a wired remote jack right here. We have our volume control, which not only controls the output volume, it controls the input volume when you're recording. Here's your record switch, and it's 2 steps. You press this down and turn that over, and you're in record mode. Then we have off, start, and we have run. Now, the reason you have start is it kind of gets the ball rolling, and then when you switch over to run, it will automatically stop when one of those aluminum foil things hit the tape heads. So the unit will shut off on its own. Then we have a level meter here, which is just literally a light, a lamp, external speaker, and then here's where our power cord is coming out. This is that foil sticker I was referring to a minute ago. So this is just stuck onto the front of the tape. And when it passes over the tape heads, it creates a circuit which causes a relay to turn everything off. You'll also see that same kind of aluminum tape on an 8-track tape, which triggers the machine to change to the next channel, track, or program. Now, something unique about these Echomatic cartridges is they have a little trick up their sleeve that even the 8-track, in fact, none of those endless loop cartridges I showed you earlier have this little trick. And it's a little complex, which is probably why they never picked up on it. But the tape, as you'll see here, is behind plastic right there. And the way to get the tape down and playable is a couple of pins come out. You'll see those here in a moment. They come out and they push down on this, which drops the tape down into the area that it will be played. Okay, so that's kind of a unique feature. The tape itself, as you can see here, comes out of the right side of the cartridge, like here, instead of on the left. So it's pulled out of the center of the hub here. It runs across the tape heads, and then it comes back and loops around the outside. And that, again, is a continuous process. And on the back of the tape is some kind of a lubricant. It's a dry lubricant that prevents the tape from sticking to itself as it goes through. If I was to just take regular reel-to-reel tape and put it in this cartridge, it would instantly seize up because it doesn't have that dry lubricant on there. Here is that same cartridge with the cover removed. And as I turn this around here, you can see those two spring-loaded little carriers here, guides, that both move out of the way, but then spring right back up once you pull it out of the machine. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what it's like loading the cartridge into the machine. I'm going to remove this cover here, which is really handy because underneath the cover is the exact electronics specifications and schematic for this particular machine. So feel free to pause that, take a picture of it, share it with your friends. All right. Here are the internals here that make up all the fun that happens when you put a cartridge in. So we have the erase head here. We have the playback head here. We have the capstan here. The pentroller is over here. Over here are two pressure pads that are used to press the tape against the heads. This, of course, had to be replaced. The one that was here was completely rotten. So these are actually ones that go into an 8-track tape. So if you collect 8-track tapes, you will likely need to order some of these pressure pads and replace them all in every one of your cartridges for the most part. I mean, RCA's cartridges usually use a different kind of a pad, and those are typically fine. But any of these long ones are going to need to be replaced. Here are these two little arms, these little pin arms that are sticking out that are actually going to lower the tape into the system. If you've ever taken an 8-track tape apart, this part here should look familiar to you because this came out of an 8-track tape. The original one that was on here, the original pentroller, was absolutely unusable. It was just hard as a rock and had no elasticity to it whatsoever or stickiness. So I had to tear that thing off of there and replace it. And this one is the exact dimensions to work in its place. And then you can see those foam pads that are super glued onto this piece. And all of this stuff right here moves forward along with the cassette. And let me show you how that looks. So you take the cartridge and you insert it here. And there it is. Now, a lot just happened in that short time that it took to push that in there. First off, this whole mechanism here is on a rail. It's like a train track underneath. And I'm going to put it in reverse here so you can see it slowly. So you'll see two things as this cartridge moves forward. This pentroller moves from this position to this position. These pins both come down and push those guides out of the way and bring the tape down into the tape path. And then, of course, our pressure pad comes forward as well. So here we go, going nice and slow. There goes our pentroller. There go those pins, pushing the guides down. And now our cartridge is in place and can play. So what's happening under the hood? This is just the top hood, but there's another hood, and that would be the innards of this machine. So now we want to get into that and show you what's going on underneath. And peering down through the inside here, you can see all of the glorious mechanism that makes this thing work. You can see here some power circuitry here on the left. I believe that thing with white tape on the outside, right above my finger there, is a relay, very possible. Little transformer up here on the top. We have our gigantic motor, drive motor here. You would think that they were trying to build a mini washing machine with the size of this motor, but I guess it does the job. Plenty of torque. There is, and I had to take this motor apart and clean it. It was kind of seized up, so I Had to put some lubricant inside at the top and at the bottom. And this pulley right here has a 2-section piece to it. So currently it's at 3 3/4 inches per second with these 2 belts going across. If you move the belts down 1 section, you'll get 1 7/8 inches per second. So you can do that in order to gain more recording time, but your recording quality is not going to be as good. Another challenge I ran into was deep inside here, down there where you can see that spring, there was a post that broke, and it was busted off because the lubricant on that post, which involved moving the controller forward and backward, it was completely turned to concrete. So trying to remove the parts and get that fixed, it resulted in a broken post. I replaced the post with a screw, and you can see that screw right here protruding through the top of that plate right there. And this is where our controller goes. So as this moves forward here, there is a very strange mechanism on the underside that's doing the movement of the controller into place. Here's our amplifier circuitry over on this side, and that about covers everything under the hood here. Here's another view for you, peering down over the motor and over the flywheel there. You can see the relationship here is quite good. They both move together. And in case you were wondering what it looked like with the motor running, this is what you would see on the inside if it was not covered up by this amazing tank of a cover. Time for a little music demonstration. And I do say little because this particular tape, I played a little bit of it, and I used Siri's Recognize This Music feature. What is it, Shazam, that does that? And it actually recognized this music, which means if it can recognize it, then YouTube can probably recognize it. So I'll give you about 6 seconds of this, and you can hear what the fidelity would be like. Now, there were music players that were specifically designed for this Orrtronic tapette that would play both tracks, track A and track B, mono, but this machine only plays one track. It actually plays only track A, the top track there. So let's take a little listen here. And what happens when you try to record your own music on this particular box? I wish I could say the music sounded as good as the recording you heard at the beginning of this video with just speech. I'll let you hear a little bit of music that is copyright free. My journey into the Echomatic 2 tape cartridge format started with this particular unit here. And I mention it because it belonged to a machine known as the Besler Salesmate 2. And it used audio from these Echomatic cartridges, as well as 35mm film, and known as a film strip. And it would advance the slides automatically. So this is in fact a 2-track head in this one. So it has the change signals on one track, and it has the audio on another track. But loading this thing is really funky. So imagine trying to teach a salesman to do this. In any case, you push that in, and it's gonna kind of sit right there. And then I believe you close this tape gate like that, which pushes down on those 2 spindles on the inside. And then you have a latch that you lift up here, and you have a solenoid here that once you've activated playback, it activates this, pulling on it and pulling the capstan and the controller together there. So very strange. It also has the 2-belt system going on right here. But again, way less sophisticated than our Echomatic player. But it uses the same format. So that's how I have 3 tapes, is one of them came with this particular unit. And that will wrap up our video for today. If you want to learn more about this particular format, there's lots of information online. Either Google Cousino Echomatic 2 or Orrtronics Tapette. I found some information on archive.org, and there's some other websites that talk about defunct formats that will give you a little bit more information on this particular format. Please subscribe to the channel, share this video with at least 100 of your friends, and leave about 27 comments below. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.